We're talking today with Dr. Matias Bianchi, who's adjunct professor at the University of Arizona, and he's director of a website known as Asuntos del Sur. Matias Bianchi has been in and out of Venezuela frequently over the past few years and has been following events there. We're going to talk about Venezuela today. Matias, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank
Good,
you for the
good. Thank,
invitation.
thank you for joining us on World Review and GIS. I want to talk about Venezuela. Why don't you help us out, particularly on the issue of the strength or viability of democracy in Venezuela?
Well, I see a decay on in democracy in Venezuela. I've been visiting the country for the last 6, 7 years, and you see a deterioration. What Chavez meant for several observers, including me, he meant at the beginning political inclusion of marginalized social actors into the political system. They, in the last 7 years, they haven't been able to deliver, and the situation has gotten worse and worse. So the opposition leaders haven't managed to create. They created the mood, this alliance, but they haven't been able to really deliver to the population, and they seem to be trapped in some sort of egos fight. I don't know if that's an expression in English, in which each one is seeking for their own little piece, and they haven't been able to propose something new to society. In the meantime, the government seems completely incapable even to keep up with the original promises. Even the missions are no longer in place, like the mission that you could see, the Barrio Adentro, that was the most important one in the after the oil strike in 2002. You could see with the Cuban doctors operating in marginal parts of the country. You could see that in the last year and a half, if you visit those places, the doctors are no longer there. That was a crucial part of the policy. So I see a decay in the entire system.
Excuse me one second. Matias, when you talk about struggling egos, are you referring to the opposition fragmentation or to a struggle within the governing group?
There's fragmentation in both sides. In the government, there has been several groups that were original Chavistas that left, especially people connected to academia, the intelligentsia of the regime. They left, and you could see places like the Aporrea, like sites like that, that were highly supporters of the government, that provided ideas to the government. They are out. They call themselves Chavistas, but they no longer participate. And within the government, you see a division between the actors, the militaries that respond to one faction of the government, and the government, it is increasingly isolated. There's this crisis, and that responds to also a disconnection with the basis of the regime. People like Chavez, the poor population like Chavez, but they don't see with these inflation rates and this scarcity of resources, the government is not delivering.
What do you
So you
think of the claim by some economists, Venezuelan economists who are living outside the country, that the economy is about to collapse? Ricardo Hausman predicted a default on the bonds. What is your opinion about the economy and how it's being run?
Well, the economy is difficult that will default because they have the revenues from oil that account for over $100 billion a year. So you could that will never that will never driven to a default. But that is a problem because it also makes the crisis last longer, because they have the resources to be fixing little pieces of the crisis but not the system.
And
I
as
don't.
the price of oil has gone down recently to the magical threshold price of $90 a barrel, so that the amount of money available as a windfall profit to the government will be much less than it was, say, 2 years ago or 5 years ago.
Well, and that is crucial for the government, because the whole idea of the of Venezuela, and this is even before Chavez, it was about how to distribute the rents of oil, and that is what Chavez changed, but never changed the renter profile of the state. I see the crisis will worsen. You see that there's no medicine for basic things like diabetes or heart diseases, not even to mention oncology. So people are dying. I've heard that the people dying from heart disease has increased by 2,500% in the last couple of years. So those things have a real impact, and you see those things will continue, but they will I don't see a bankruptcy of the country with these revenues coming from oil.
So you think this situation can continue, slow deterioration in the economy, particularly if the price of oil stays at 90 or under, and the political infighting in both the opposition and the government you see as continuing, let's just say arbitrarily, for the next 3 to 6 months?
I would say even longer.
Uh-huh.
This situation goes longer. The opposition is not capable of offering an alternative to society. They don't know if they want to issue a new constitution, if they want to go for election, or if they want to just bluntly say that Maduro is not a legitimate president.
So
So
you can
they don't
see,
know,
excuse me, go ahead.
and so they don't know what to pursue.
Yeah.
So the alliance, that is the mood, the most important parties inside the alliance, they are taking different strategies, and they are even making national tours, visiting with these assemblies, trying to raise, but they are individually doing it, not even as a party.
Yeah.
So I don't see any improvement that.
And you see the government able to limp along for quite some time. No chaos ahead.
Well, the kind of chaos that we will see is the kind of chaos that we've seen so far.
Well,
So
no
it's the
crisis.
same kind of chaos, and the thing that we need to be aware that the Caracazo, the crisis of 1989, that happened after long decade of hyperinflation, scarcity, and so on and so forth. So it's been happening here in comparative terms is shorter. And there's a second detail for that, is that the deterioration impacts higher in the middle and upper middle class. So comparatively, the poorest people, they suffer, but not as much as the others, because they are benefited by these social plans.
Right.
So it's not that they're doing well, but they are not doing worse than before.
Right. And you think the factionalism within the Madero government, his rivals for power, for example, will not be destabilizing of the government over the next 3 to 6 months?
No, I don't see any political crisis like that. What is happening is that is currently operating without centralization. So it's operating in chaos, in which each fraction, they control different part of the state, and they just use it. So there's no centralization that there was with Chavez, under Chavez, but it's this disordered, chaotic government that I see that will continue.
Okay. You don't see, for example, a significant probability of a military group backing one of the factions, perhaps with help from Cuban intelligence agents, to change the government?
I'm pretty sure that that is happening, but it will not succeed. First, the U.S. is looking somewhere else, and they're not interested in intervening. There's a important support from the other major country in the region that they don't want any kind of regime change or anything like that. And so even if they want to do it, there's no much room of maneuvering, I think, for any non-democratic regime change.
You think CELAC, the new Latin American regional group that operates without the United States, is capable of reacting to or preventing regime change in Venezuela?
I don't see any, no, not as an institution, but I do see the individual countries uh,
Pressing.
making pressure for that.
Okay, well, that's a very optimistic note. I think we should stop there, and we'll come back and visit this another time to see whether or not our optimism is warranted and correct in our scenarios. We've been talking with Matias Bianchi, Doctor of Political Science, Adjunct Professor at the University of Arizona, and Director of Asuntos del Sur. Matias, thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you.